Hey, Mike here with Canadian Musician. Right now, Club Soda, of course, the Montreal International Jazz Festival is going on. One of the biggest names, I'd say most respected names in all of this year's festival, probably would stand that way any year at this festival. An officer of the Order of Canada, beloved for both her music and her philanthropy, Molly Johnson. Molly, thank you very much for this.
Well, this is a pleasure. Thank you.
And well, I'll start off with your present project. It's probably a question you're getting a lot right now. The album and the corresponding tour is called Because of Billie. Of course, it's a tribute to the late, great Billie Holiday. Why now for this, essentially? Not only why Billie Holiday, but why is now the right time in your life and your career to do a tribute album and tour like this?
Well, it is the 100th anniversary of Billie's birth, for starters. For many, many years, people have said, oh, you're just like Billie. And I'd say, well, actually, I'm nothing like Billie Holiday. I'm because of Billie Holiday. I have the privileged life because her generation, of which my parents were a big part of, and the civil rights movement. And so I've had a very privileged life. So it's a great time to be able to say that and just talk about how far we've come, how far we still need to go. Huge movement yesterday in civil rights with the Americans passing that bill. I mean, that is a huge step for mankind and all kind and all kinds. It was just a really awesome day. So, and why now? You sing these old Billie songs, these old jazz tunes. In my view, anyhow, you have to have a bit of a life. You have to have been able to been through some things so that you can speak with truth.
It's funny, you bring up that with jazz, like you said, you have to have lived that life to be able to speak with truth. And yesterday I was speaking with Harry Manx, blues player, all combines blues and Indian music and that. But I kind of got into that conversation with him where, unlike a lot of genres in blues, age is an asset. And you're seen with greater reverence and respect and considered a greater master as you age. Sounds like you feel it's the same way with jazz. Like, what is it that age brings as an artist, as a performer, that you won't see in a young jazz singer?
Well, a little gravitas, a little patina, a little smoke on the vocal cords, a little bit of attitude. Okay, quite a bit of attitude. And yes, it is definitely a music that you can grow into. I remember years ago, I had a punk band named Alta Moda. I had a punky kind of funk band called The Infidels. And all through that, I sang these very same songs, and a lot of them at the back room of the Cameron Public House in Toronto. I love the Cameron. Hats off to the Cameron. I lived there for 10 years. But I always knew, people say, why don't you do that now? And I'd say, well, I know it'll just get better as I age. I really don't want to be... Though I am still a punk, I think if you're a punk, you're just always going to have a bit of an attitude. So I always have a little bit of a mohawk back here still, as you can see. Call it my mommy hawk. But I always knew that I could grow into this music and be comfortable in this music, which is exactly how it happened.
You're speaking there about a bit about your punk roots with Alta Moda and Infidels, but you're also the well-known story. You've been in performance from a very, very young age, picked out by Ed Mirvish at only 4 years old, if I remember correctly.
5 years old with Ed, yeah.
Which is that's an incredibly young age to get started.
It was a very young age, but you have to remember Toronto was a very, very small town. Toronto was very small in the 70s, and there were not a lot of people of color. I know when you look around the streets of Toronto or any city in Canada, it's hard to believe that just 20, 30 years ago, I was a very rare beast. My brother and I were the only brown-skinned kids in our entire school in downtown Toronto. So, no, absolutely. My dad used to say, one day everyone will look like you. And he was absolutely right, because everybody does look like us, right? Everybody does look like me now. But back in the day, when Ed Mirvish stumbled upon us, we were kind of rare. And he was bringing musicals up from the U.S., and they didn't travel with kids. So we were just the kids. Cynthia Dale, who's now at Stratford, married to Peter Mansbridge, she was one of the other kid families, her and her sister and her brother. So it was sort of the two families. And,
where I was going was like, well, it's obviously been a very long time since then. That background in theater, Do you think that still has any impact on the way you approach music? Does it bring a theatricality to your performance?
Well, not so much a theatricality because I'm really not an actor. Yes. And my sister and my brother are actors, but I retired from acting at 12. Yes. I told them I was going to be Molly Johnson. It was going to be a full-time job. When I was 12, that was clearly, I wasn't going to be trying to be other people because this Molly thing was going to be a bit much. But I have to say that I did Porgy and Bess as a small child on the Royal Alex stage. I think I was 5 or 6. So I did hear the incredible score to Porgy and Bess, which has I Loves You, Porgy, which I sing now, and it has Summertime, which I sing now. So surely there's resonance in that. And plus, I know the history of those songs. I think a lot of my stage presence, if you can call it that, and most people will agree that I don't actually have a stage presence. I was very much the similar. But I spent a lot of time at the National Ballet School, 14 years at the National. And that school will give you a quiet confidence. That school will give you fantastic posture, excellent knees, and a wonderful sense of your core, which basically has been my entire vocal training. I've had, I think, one vocal class in my life. And the teacher told me I was too far gone. I had too many bad habits to really pursue, which was fine. I went out and had a smoke, and it was all good. It was all good. But I think between the National and Ed Mirvish giving me pointers, I mean, he gave me great tips when I was a little kid that stayed with me all this time. He's really a beautiful guy, and I love what his son David has done with the legacy. It's really cool.
Moving from that into your punk phase, now into the more, traditionally jazz phase. From the punk to the traditionally jazz phase, what had essentially inspired that? Did you move in that direction?
I think for me, it's always been the writing of songs and the telling of stories. And frankly, I'm an eavesdropper. And I listen in on other people's stories and then go home and write about them. Yes, I do. And I love songwriting. I think I love it more than anything. I in and out of the performing end of it with small children. I didn't go on the road, for instance. I had little boys who are now grateful, gorgeous young men who think I'm awesome, and they're right. But in those days, that 10-year period, I was at home a lot and not writing. Because I clearly did not want to write about my children and the trials and tribulations of no sleep and other mother and father type things. Yes. I just wanted to avoid that, so I did. But it is something I love. I love to write songs. I love working those songs out with musicians. The sort of recording rehearsal moments are wonderful. The performance is kind of a means to an end. I certainly love it once I'm there, and the audiences are great and have lots of fun. But I don't live for it.
It's not always what you feel.
It's not my thing. It's not. I don't live for it. I know there are performers that if they're not in front of an audience, they go a little squirrely. I like to say that I don't have to get out of my pajamas or brush my teeth. And I get more love from my boys and my husband than a whole audience. So I didn't miss a thing. I don't miss anything. But definitely the performance does propel you back into the writing room and back into the studio.
Very cool. And I guess to get back to the new project because of Billie, first of all, when you're going through Billie Holiday's very considerable back catalog, how did you narrow it down? Did you have a clear sense of what types of songs you wanted to pick?
Absolutely not. My bass player, Michael Downs, who has been my best buddy for 20 years, he listens to me sing all the time. I don't listen to myself sing at all. I don't even listen to recordings. I tend to leave. I tend to record and go home.
Really? Even in the studio, you don't listen back?
I don't want to listen back. Mostly because you can always do it better, and hence you'd never leave the room. You got to leave the room, let others decide, and go to your next record. Make your next record. Michael's been listening to me for years. I've been listening to Michael. Yes. I listen to the band. It's not like I'm up there going, making a shopping list in my head, though I have done that. But I'm listening to the band, and I always surround myself with exceptional players, and it's a joy to listen to them. I asked for a stool on stage because I like to sit and listen to the band. So those guys, and in particular Michael, picked the songs and produced and arranged it as well.
I'd read you say that the songs, generally speaking, were recorded very quickly. Some of them you got on the first take.
Almost all of them we did on the first take. All of them were first take.
How much preparation then had you and your band worked before entering the studio to get them to that point?
Not a lot.
Really?
I actually learned a couple songs that day and then recorded them.
Really?
Yeah. The guys, musicians of that caliber, they all read charts, right? So you all come to the room at a certain point, at a certain level to begin with. You know these songs. And then the magic happens from that bar. So the bar's here, and then we go from there. We just go from there. And well, I like to say that the drummer always had his drum kit packed up after the first take. He'd say, it was great, and he started to pack up his kit, and we kind of look at him, he's probably right. And we all leave. It was kind of how we made the record. It was kind of great. And that is a jazz record. You know, rehearsing, we always like to say is for amateurs. I don't really rehearse. We just did a sound check, which is a slash rehearsal because the drummer hadn't played a couple of the original tunes of mine. So we just ran them with him just now. The charts are impeccable. He reads. It's all good. You know, I'm more about the relationship with the musicians, the time we spend together, the meals we've had, the jokes we've had, the laughs we've had. That all builds to allowing solos and the confidence and the trust that has to go on stage in order for a musician to take off like that and know that we've all got your back while you disappear into a solo, right? And these kinds of relationships come over dinner, come over long train rides, come over bad travel experience, come over, 90 minutes on stage, we have the rest of the day, right? So a lot of my thing is about the rest of the day. The 90 minutes on stage kind of takes care of itself. It's the relationships through the day. And those are the real important ones. I think one rule is never hire anybody you wouldn't have dinner with. That's the one.
That's a very good rule of thumb there.
I got that from my contractor, who has very good electricians and plumbers working for him. And no, I'm not giving you his number, because he's very busy.
You never know where the best advice comes from.
You got to be open to it all, but I love you don't hire anybody you wouldn't have dinner with.
That's excellent. And well, within that rest of the day you're talking about, you stay very busy. I mentioned off the top, not only are you billed for your music, obviously, but also your philanthropic work.
Tough word.
Too many syllables in that.
Yeah.
And but yes, you have your Kumbaya Foundation, which is doing fantastic things for AIDS awareness and research. With this new album, a portion of the proceeds from Because of Billie are going to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Canada.
Absolutely, of North America, actually. Boys and Girls Clubs are all through North America, so I'm able to fundraise locally every city I play in. I can invite those groups. We sell shirts, we sell CDs, but globally, what I've been working on is to get the royalties on Billie's tunes loosened for this year, so it doesn't matter whether it's Cassandra Wilson or myself or who's ever recording Billie tunes, the writer's share, which is always sort of floated in the ether of nobody owns it because she had no will, it will now go to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And so this is why I hesitated to record her stuff for a while, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't generating money for something, or somebody, or I'm sure they're doing a lovely job. And it's not that Billie's works were hugely used. You're not using Strange Fruit, and even though she didn't write Strange Fruit, but say God Bless the Child, or Now or Never, or Don't Explain. These aren't tracks that would sell orange juice or a car or a hamburger, but they're out there. Universal, my label of many, many years, was the first to lead the chase on this. Randy Lennox, president of Universal, got that right away, and they've been very helpful in loosening up the U.S. for me on that tip. So I got a lot of support from them.
Sorry, almost dropping my phone here. But as looking at kind of your personality or your characteristics, that philanthropic, I keep bringing out that word and can't say it, but
it's difficult.
There you go. But that drive to help others, to get involved socially and politically. And on the other side, there's that artistic drive. Do they come from a similar place for you? For
me, they come from the same place. Being an artist, you're really just holding up a mirror and saying, look at that crazy shit, right? Really, guys? Because this is nuts, right? It's kind of what our job is, right? And in doing so, you open yourself up to the world and parts of the world that aren't right. And I come from a family of, my mother was she still is a massive pain in the ass, civil rights lawyer for Amnesty, and she started many initiatives, Canadians Save the Children, CUSO, all kinds of Match, wonderful organization. She's started all these things. And my dad was, the guy that brought the Black Panthers up to our house, and Vietnam vets and draft dodgers, and we had a very interesting house growing up. So I grew up in it. It's just the way you do. It's just what you do.
That's very cool. And Molly, I know you're extremely busy. You probably have to get back to sound check.
They're actually tuning the piano now, which means I can go out for a smoke.
There you go. I hope you enjoy it. Well earned.
Thank you so much.
And Molly, I really, it's a true pleasure to meet you. Thank you for this.
Pleasure. My pleasure.